divine assassin Ehud, the shocking strike that exposed a fearsome ruler and fulfilled God's plan. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the Israelites found themselves in a cycle of oppression, their hearts heavy under the weight of sin and idolatry. The land flowed not with milk and honey but with sorrow, as the Moabites, led by King Eglon, oppressed them for 18 years. Eglon, a gluttonous tyrant, reveled in excess while God's chosen people languished in despair, calling out for deliverance. In the shadows, however, the Almighty prepared a deliverer. Ehud, a left-handed man from the tribe of Benjamin, was chosen by God for a remarkable divine purpose. Perceiving a plan unfolding beyond mortal comprehension, he forged a double-edged sword, sharp and hidden beneath his garments, an instrument not merely of flesh but of spiritual reckoning. With brazen faith in Yahweh, Ehud embarked on a journey through the treacherous streets of Jericho, a city that bore witness to forgotten promises and hopelessness. The very soil was imbued with echoes of past covenant blessings that now felt distant, buried beneath the cries of the oppressed. Upon arriving at Eglon's opulent palace, Ehud was met with scorn, the guards dismissing him without regard. They were lulled into complacency by Eglon's arrogance, a glutton basking in his own importance. This mockery of authority clouded their judgment, allowing for the moment of divine destiny to unfold. As Eglon reclined in all his self-indulgence, a sense of foreboding filled the air. The grand chambers were saturated not only with luxury, but with the tension of divine intervention lingering just beyond reach. In the sacred silence of that moment, Ehud stepped forward, spirit aflame with resolve. Drawing forth the hidden blade, his heart echoed the weight of generations. The weapon gleamed ominously as it was unleashed upon the tyrant. With a swift and courageous thrust, the blade found its target plunging into Eglon's corpulent belly. The very seat of his evil reign met divine judgment. Gasps echoed like thunder, reverberating through the halls of tyranny. Eglon crumpled, the glutton's excess transforming into a horror of divine reckoning. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. The taste of victory mingled with the foul air of Eglon's demise as Ehud slipped away, racing through the corridor lit only by the flickering embers of rebellion ignited. The cries of heaven reverberated with triumph, yet shadowed by the weight of promise unfulfilled. Would this act pave the way to freedom? Would the Israelites rally in unity and faith? As dawn broke over the land soaked in blood and hope, Ehud summoned the men of Israel, stoking within them the embers of deliverance. The echoes of God's promises coursed through his veins, and hope took root amidst despair. The question loomed large. Was Ehud merely a sharp instrument in God's hands, or the chosen deliverer who would usher in a new dawn for his people? As whispers of war began to pulse through the hearts of the oppressed, so too did the mystery of God's unfolding plan, urging all towards redemption and divine grace, awaiting the resounding answer only faith could reveal. As the sun cast its golden rays upon the hills of Judah, illuminating the weary faces of the Israelites, Ehud's voice rang with authority, breaking through the fog of despair. Children of Israel, hear me. The Lord our God has delivered our enemy into our hands. He has sacrificed the oppressor for our freedom, and now is the time to rise. The men gathered around him, eyes wide with anticipation, hearts racing with the stirrings of hope. Each man felt the weight of Eglon's tyranny lift from their shoulders, yet questions trembled in the air. Was the fate of their nation now to rest upon their shoulders? Amidst the throng, there was the son of Gera, an influential man named Shamhuth. He stepped forward, brow furrowed, whispering, "But how shall we defeat the Moabites? They are many, and their armies are fortified." The murmurs of doubt spread among the crowd, like ripples on a still pond, threatening to drown out the flicker of courage ignited in their hearts. Ehud raised a hand, silencing the outpouring of concern. The Lord has shown his power. We were humbled beneath the weight of our sin, and now he is leading us back to righteousness. Trust in him. His voice, strong and resolute, stirred the men's spirits, and the remembrance of their suffering drove them to clarity. With renewed determination, Ehud laid plans for a bold attack. He gathered a group of valiant warriors, men not only of strength but also of faith, ready to take back their land from the Moabite grip. "Let us march to the land of Ephraim," he commanded, "and from there let us strike at the heart of our oppressors." As they made their way through the valleys, they prayed earnestly, their voices echoing in the mountains, calling upon the Lord to honor his covenant. Under the canopy of thick olives and pines, the air crackled with divine expectancy. It was then that a feeling of urgency rushed through Ehud. "We must not delay. Eglon is dead, but the darkness of Moab still lingers." Thus they approached the stronghold of the Moabites, the ground trembling beneath their feet as fear surged within them. Yet, among the 10,000 men forming the camp, confidence began to grow like a mighty tree. At the break of dusk, Ehud and his men arrived at the Jordan, ready to cross into the land that promised ancestral freedom. But as they looked across the waters, they paused, sensing a heavy portent. God's hand was manifesting power through their obedience. Taking a deep breath, Ehud led the charge with a slogan on his lips, a war cry that resonated, "For the Lord and for our freedom." They surged across, eyes fixed upon the enemy encampment, hearts beating in synchrony with the divine purpose that pulsed through them. But unbeknownst to them, the shadows of heaven were stirring. In the dominion of Moab, rumors whispered as Eglon's death reached the ears of the king's commanding officers. "Have you heard?" they questioned among themselves. "Their deliverer has struck fear into the heart of our kingdom. They seek not just vengeance, but an end to our reign." As Ehud's men descended upon the unsuspecting camp, a fierce urgency gripped them. The appointment of God was drawing near, and with it came the revelation that awaited the land. Bondage would not hold forever, and deliverance was at hand. But a greater purpose was intertwined with their struggle, a divine orchestration far beyond their comprehension, leading toward a profound covenant renewal. Who would stand firm in the face of the undeniable truth that nothing could thwart the will of the Almighty? As the first arrows flew, the sound of the clash broke the fragile silence, leaving all to wonder, what lay beyond the dawn of this victory? Would they simply reclaim their land, or was this but the first act in a grand design that would echo through generations as God fulfilled his promises? And so it was that as the first light of dawn illuminated the fray, the men of Israel loosed their arrows, their hearts ablaze with the zeal to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. The sound of men shouting the Lord's name drowned out the fears that had once gripped them. Ehud, resolute at the forefront, lifted his voice, "The Lord fights for us. Let us not relent, for our God goes before us." As they pressed into the enemy camp, the Moabites, caught unawares, staggered in confusion, their mighty encampment disorderly and shattered. The Israelites fought not in the power of their own might, but buoyed by the assurance of the one who had promised, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." Deuteronomy 31:6. Each fall of a Moabite echoed a history of oppression, yet now it signaled triumph over darkness. In the midst of the chaos, word of Ehud's fearless leadership spread like wildfire through the ranks of Israel. The worthies of Judah filled the air with praise and called upon the spirits of valor. "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice," they chanted, their voices uniting as one, igniting the embers of hope that had lain dormant too long. Yet as the Israelites plowed through the ranks of Moab, the heart of the enemy lay buried within the battlefield. The commander of the Moabites, a fierce warrior, had taken refuge in his tent, waiting for the storm to pass. A man of renown, he whispered commands to his men, urging them to rally against the advancing tide. "Fear not, for we will stand strong. They are but a rabble. Fortune is with us," he proclaimed, blinded by pride and a false sense of security. But Ehud, fueled by the Spirit of the Lord, could not allow this shadow of tyranny to remain in command. With cunning resolve, he commanded, "Let those who are able to chase swiftly pursue the fleeing remnants. We must cut off the head of this serpent." His words were met with a thunderous agreement as his warriors surged forward with righteous fury. Amidst the clamor, Ehud maneuvered through the chaos, his eyes set on the commander's tent. There within, the Moabite leader prepared a plan to reclaim his forces with renewed vigor. Yet little did he know of the divine strike that was upon him. Approaching with stealth, Ehud's heart pounded, not out of fear but from a fervent hope. As he burst into the tent, the Moabite leader, startled, drew his sword, but it was too late. "You are finished," Ehud declared, the authority of heaven underpinning his words. With a swift, decisive action, he struck down the oppressor, declaring victory over evil itself. This then was the decisive moment God ordained. For in this act, the Lord not only delivered Israel from the shackles of oppression, but revealed the depths of his plan. He was less concerned with mere physical liberation than with the hearts of his people returning to him in faithfulness. The cries of victory echoed across the battlefield, the Moabite troops retreating like shadows at dawn. "The Lord has delivered us," the Israelites shouted, their faith not just in freedom, but in the God who redeems. Yet amidst the celebrations, Ehud paused, sensing that this was only the beginning of God's greater purpose. What remained in the hearts of the people was not merely a thirst for retribution, but a yearning for revival. And it beckoned, who among them would seek the Lord's face anew? For within this victory, a deeper darkness was revealed, a cycle of perpetual turning away from God. Would they embrace the grace given, or would history repeat itself? Thus, as the sun began to rise fully over the land of Israel, illuminating the path ahead, a divine mystery hung like the morning mist. Was this deliverance a mere end, or the prologue to a kingdom established in righteousness? The answer lay not just in their victory over Moab, but in their heart's allegiance to the Almighty. And it came to pass that as the dust settled, and the cries of victory faded into the echoes of the land, the men of Israel congregated at the place where they had encountered the hand of the Almighty. Every heart was uplifted, yet within the depths of their souls there lingered an unease that would not dissipate. For though the Moabites were vanquished, the shadows of past transgressions threatened to resurface, and the specter of unfaithfulness loomed over them like a storm cloud. Ehud, having tasted the sweetness of triumph, lifted his voice once more to his brethren. "O Israel, let us remember this day, for it is a day of deliverance, a day when the Lord poured out his mercy upon us. Yet let us not be hasty in our rejoicing, for we have been granted freedom, but with this freedom comes a keen responsibility, the call to turn our hearts back to the one who saved us from oppression." As his words resonated throughout the assembly, the elders nodded gravely. They recognized the wisdom of their leader. They had seen the cycle of apostasy that had bound their forefathers to servitude. "What shall we do, Ehud?" they asked, their faces reflecting the weight of their collective past. Ehud descended from the heights of his victory, and with humility declared, "Let us offer sacrifices of praise unto our God. Let us renew the covenant we so foolishly forsook. We must engrave our hearts with his commands, for it is in obedience that our safety lies." Hence they erected an altar of stones near the edge of the battlefield, a testament to their commitment. As they wrapped their hands around the horns of the altar, the aroma of burnt offerings filled the air, rising like sweet incense before the throne of grace. Their voices mingled in worship, confessing their sins and begging forgiveness for the times they had strayed from the path of righteousness. But while the Israelites devoted themselves to worship and penance, the remnants of the Moabites, driven by anger and disgrace, gathered on the outskirts, clutching their wounds and nursing their rage. "We are not defeated," hissed one of the leaders who had escaped the battle, his eyes alight with vengeance. "They have shamed us and taken our commander. We will rise again, and this time we will crush Israel." And thus the lack of unity amongst the Moabites sowed seeds of discord. They sought allies from the Ammonites and the Midianites, declaring their thirst for revenge. As they conspired in the shadows, the Lord looked down from his holy abode, his heart heavy for his people. In his profound mercy and justice, he knew that another trial would soon rise against Israel to test their resolve and reconfirm their fidelity to him. Meanwhile, within the camp of Israel, a spirit of ambitious hope surged among the people. "Let us be steadfast, we are not alone," resonated the cries of the newly faithful. Yet Ehud knew, as he surveyed their faces, that the battle for the soul of Israel was not merely one of swords and shields, but of hearts and faith. He gathered the leaders again, laying out a vision for renewal, a call for every tribe to recommit themselves to God's commandments. As they deliberated, a shadow swept across the landscape, a reminder of the wars not yet won, the battles that lay ahead. But from the depths of this tension, a whisper of hope began to rise, calling them to unity and faith. "For I know the plans I have for you," the Lord had spoken through his prophets long ago. "Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Thus, as the hearts of the Israelites sought the Lord, a divine orchestration began to unfold, for they would learn that their greatest battles were not merely against flesh and blood, but against the very forces that sought to separate them from the love of God. And so the time would come when the true nature of their allegiance would be tested. For the God who delivered them from Moab had more in store, a covenant promise that awaited its fulfillment amidst the struggles they were yet to face. Would they stand firm, or would they falter again? For in their commitment lay the key to their destiny. And it came to pass in those days that the whispers of vengeance from the Moabites grew louder, echoing through the valleys and over the hills. The leaders amongst them, emboldened by their defeat yet eager for blood, vowed to gather a great force against Israel, fueled by hatred and the desire for retribution. Their hearts were hardened, for they remembered the shame of their fallen comrades and the mighty hand that had struck them down. In the land of Israel, the eyes of the elders were fixed upon the horizon, sensing that a storm was brewing. Their prayers ascended like smoke to heaven, a cacophony of pleas seeking divine intervention. "O God of Israel," they cried, "we are but dust, unworthy of mercy. Strengthen our hands and prepare our hearts. Fortify us against the tide of adversity that approaches." Ehud, known for his heart of cunning and valor, rose among them, his presence a beacon amidst the growing shadows. "Fear not, for our God is with us. He shall fight for us, not with mere weapons of iron, but with his mighty spirit." His voice trembled with conviction, igniting a fire in the hearts of the weary. "Let us not forget the covenant we have renewed, our promises engraven upon our hearts. We shall prevail, not by might nor by power, but by his Spirit." The elders nodded in agreement, but uncertainty lingered in their spirits, for they knew that the enemy would not strike lightly. Thus they set out to gather their warriors, sending messengers to the tribes. "Gather, O sons of Jacob, for the Lord will show his might through us once more." Days turned into nights, and as the armies of Moab encroached upon their borders, the men of Israel assembled. They stood like a wall of hope, and their unity breathed strength into the land. Yet amidst preparations, a chill crept over Ehud as he sought counsel in prayer. "Why has this burden settled so heavily upon me, O Lord?" he pleaded. "Reveal to me your will, that I may lead these people according to your purpose." And in that moment of stillness the Lord spoke. "Take courage, Ehud, for I have chosen you to deliver my people. But first, you must walk in stealth. The enemy shall not see you coming until it is too late. Arm yourself with wisdom and faith, and I shall grant you victory." With renewed vigor, Ehud gathered the leaders of Israel once more. "The Moabites gather upon our doorstep, and they will strike at dawn. Let us set a plan, for the Lord has shown me his design." His words hung heavy in the air, and as the leaders listened, a hush fell over them, the weight of divine revelation pressing upon their hearts. "Let us divide our forces," Ehud instructed. "Some shall face them in open battle, while I shall go forth alone to seek the heart of their leader, Eglon, a king of stout body and cruel heart. For I believe the Lord has ordained that I should deliver his message to him, and through this deliverance our victory shall be assured." As they prepared for the coming trial, the Israelite warriors were filled with a holy resolve. They took up their weapons, the gleam of swords reflecting their unwavering faith. Within the camp arose shouts of battle songs, lifting spirits and declaring the promises of God. "For the Lord is our strength and our shield. He is our refuge in times of trouble." Yet unbeknownst to them, in the secret chambers of Eglon's stronghold, the king sat upon his throne, plotting the downfall of Israel. He too could sense a shifting in the winds. His advisors, trembling with fear, whispered of the valor of Ehud and the faith of Israel. They grow bold, they warned, and we must strike before they can fully gather their strength. The stage was set for conflict, hearts prepared for battle. But the deeper conspiracy of the Lord was just about to unfold, as within the unfolding drama, his divine plan was veiled yet stirring. For Eglon, the ruler who thought himself untouchable, was to be the instrument through which the Lord would display his wondrous power and bring forth a new chapter in the history of Israel. And so the dawn approached, fraught with anticipation and destiny. Could this be the moment when the prophecy of deliverance would leap from the shadows into the light? The outcome hung in the balance, but faith stood steadfast, waiting for the revelation of the Almighty. For within God's sovereign plan lay the victory not just for a nation, but a testimony for all ages, a reminder that even in the face of insurmountable foes, his promises are faithful and true. As the sun began to rise, its golden rays pierced through the veil of night, illuminating the valley where the armies stood poised for battle. The air was thick with tension, and the rustling of armor was a symphony of impending warfare. In the camp of Israel, the warriors gathered in circles, fervently praying, their voices unified in a chorus of trust. The words of their leader echoed in their hearts. "Fear not, for our God is with us." Ehud, clad in simple garb yet fierce in spirit, steeled himself for the task ahead. He sought one last moment of solitude before stepping into the lion's den. "O God of our fathers," he murmured in prayer, "grant me the wisdom to fulfill your purpose. Let me be your instrument of justice." Meanwhile, in the fortified court of Eglon, the Moabite king reveled in his false confidence. With a great feast laid before him, he prepared to celebrate what he believed would be another decisive victory. His advisers lingered, each man contemplating the tide of war that loomed over them. "Send me the best of my guards," Eglon commanded, his voice dripping with arrogance, "for we will meet the Israelites and crush them once again." As the dark plans of Eglon unfolded, Ehud reached the outskirts of the stronghold, his heart beating like war drums. Cloaked in disguise, he approached the guard stationed at the heavy door, his demeanor calm yet alert. "I bear a message for your king, a word from the God of Israel," he declared, his voice steady. The guard, bewildered yet intrigued, ushered him forward, leading him past the sentinels and deep into the heart of the stronghold. The halls echoed with the laughter of feasting men, unaware of the storm that was about to break upon them. Eglon, unaware of the plot unfolding within his very chambers, awaited the supposed messenger with a smug smile. Ehud entered the inner sanctum where Eglon sat enthroned, opulent and imposing. "O king," he addressed the tyrant, "I come with a secret message for you." Eglon, intrigued, leaned closer, his interest piqued. "Speak, Israelite, for I am a man of great hearing." As Ehud stepped closer, the room fell silent. The air crackled with tension. "I must reveal it to you in private," he said, eyes locked with the king's. Drawn by curiosity and his own pride, Eglon dismissed his guards, sealing the fate that awaited him. When the doors closed, the atmosphere shifted. The moment of reckoning had arrived. "It is the Lord God who sends me," Ehud proclaimed, drawing forth his dagger, its blade gleaming with divine purpose. "You, Eglon, will face his judgment." In swift motion, he drove the blade deep into the king's belly, a righteous vengeance upon the enemy of God's people. Eglon, caught in disbelief, grasped his wound, the shock evident as he slumped down upon his throne, the weight of his tyranny crashing upon him. In that instant, the air shifted, and silence swept through the hall. The world outside continued its course, but within the walls of Eglon's stronghold, a great victory had been accomplished. The fate of Israel turned on a decisive act of courage and divine execution. Ehud emerged from the chambers with the promise of victory burning in his heart, ready to rally his people. As he mounted his steed and rode toward the Israelite camp, a cry of triumph rose from his spirit. "The Lord has delivered our enemy into our hands." Back at the camp, the watchman spied Ehud as he approached, breathless yet resolute. "Fear not, for the Lord has acted on our behalf," he cried, the warriors electrified by the revelation of God's miraculous power. Thus the battle was won not by numbers nor sheer might, but by a faithful servant fulfilling his divinely ordained mission. As the sun set upon a day that transformed the course of Israel's history, a swelling realization dawned upon them. God's sovereign plan was being fulfilled, not only in their present struggle but for generations to follow. And as they rejoiced in their victory, the coming generations would hear of Ehud's exploits, and in the heart of those tales lay the truth that God's faithful hand orchestrates history for the deliverance of his people. For the Lord was preparing a new path for Israel, one that would echo his eternal promise, a promise revealing greater wonders yet to come. What new depths of God's sovereign purpose would be unveiled through the trials that lay ahead? As the embers of victory glowed in the hearts of the Israelites, the air hummed with a fervor that surged through every warrior's veins. Ehud, now bearing the mantle of deliverance, rallied the tribes with fervent zeal. "Arise, for the Lord has set our path before us." His voice rang out like a clarion call, igniting the spirit of the men who had battled against doubt and desolation. They gathered swiftly, warriors from Ephraim, Benjamin, and Manasseh. Each man, emboldened by the account of Ehud's fearless act, felt the breath of restoration upon them. "Today we reclaim our land," shouted one, brandishing a spear as the sun cast its fiery rays across their armored forms. With a swift delegation, Ehud led his people back toward the Moabite territories, where the remnants of Eglon's forces lingered, plotting yet another onslaught against God's chosen. "Take heart, for the Lord fights for us," Ehud declared as they marched, hearts resolute, faith ignited. As the sun began to sink low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the valley, they encountered the remnants of the Moabite army. The men, shaken and leaderless, looked upon the Israelites in terror. "What be this fear?" a Moabite cried out, his voice trembling. "Is it not we who have crushed you before?" Ehud's eyes glimmered with divine authority. "The Lord of hosts has turned the tide upon you. You have oppressed his people, and your days are numbered." The Israelites moved with intention, filling the air with battle cries as they surged forward. The clash of swords and shields erupted like thunder in the heavens, echoes of fury and righteous wrath blending into a symphony of retribution. Victory surged through the ranks of Israel as they fought not just against men, but against the oppressive darkness that sought to engulf their every hope. In the midst of the chaos, Ehud's heart was steadfast. "For the Lord has given us this day," he declared, striking down the enemies before him, knowing the battle was not his alone, but moved by the hand of God. Before the sun fully set, the cries of victory rose up as the Moabite forces fled in disarray. The Israelites, with their swords stained in the dust of battle, stood united as one people, brothers born of a covenant awaiting fulfillment. Within the chaos, the Spirit of the Lord stirred anew among them. "Let us gather the spoils of our victory," Chelid of the tribe of Benjamin suggested, and the men set about gathering weapons and provisions, grateful for the bounty that became theirs. Through the victory, the life of Israel shifted yet again, for not only had Ehud delivered them from the hand of Eglon, but through this act of justice, they were reminded of their covenant with God, as written in the scrolls of their ancestors. "Remember how the Lord brought us out of Egypt," one elder recalled, his voice carrying the weight of history. As the night deepened, the light of campfires flickered like stars in the darkness. They celebrated the Lord's deliverance with songs and prayers, lifting hearts and voices in joy before the one who had restored their fortunes. But hidden beneath the mirth was a trembling certainty that echoed in their hearts, as the elders' words lingered in the air, a reminder that in the ebb and flow of victory, shadows still loomed. The Moabites' defeat was but a reprieve for Israel, and the threat of darkness could rise again. And in those moments of jubilation, when faith surged highest, a divine whisper seemed to tremble upon the wind. "For I shall raise up judges to deliver my people, and in all your victories shall be the seed of greater struggles, to refine and reveal the depths of my purpose." Thus, as they danced and sang under the stars, a somber reality settled, that out of this victory would emerge new trials. What other hidden purposes rested in the throne room of heaven, waiting to be unfolded before the eyes of his people? As they gazed at the shimmering night sky, they knew God's sovereign plan harbored further revelations yet to come, stretching beyond the bounds of their imaginations. But as the dawn broke, illuminating the land with a golden hue, the day brought not only light but a portent that weighed heavily upon the hearts of the Israelites. Though victorious, a deepening shadow loomed over the covenant people, reminding them that peace, while sweet, is often but a fleeting breath in the tapestry of divine history. Brothers, let us not grow complacent. Ehud addressed the assembly, gathering the leaders beneath the grand oak that stood as a witness to their covenant with God. The air crackled with anticipation, each warrior acutely aware that the heart of their struggle was far from over. Though we have triumphed today, we must prepare for what lies ahead, for the Lord has told us that our peace will be tested. The men nodded, the resolve in their eyes mingling with foreboding. Among them, a young man named Enan looked up, boldness igniting his spirit. What must we do? If we are to defend our land, we shall need watchmen upon the hills. His voice rang out, an echo of youthful zeal. Yes, another added, his brow furrowing in concern. Word will spread of our might, and our enemies will rally once more. The Moabites will not suffer this dishonor quietly. Ehud raised his hands, the weight of leadership pressing against him. We shall establish watchmen at each border, and our sons will train for war. We will write of this day in our scrolls, so that generations to come will remember our covenant and our God who fought for us. And so it came to pass that day by day, the Israelites fortified their defenses. They sharpened their swords and began to weave their shields with new courage and purpose. As they trained, prayers ascended like incense to the heavens, crying out for strength against the trials yet to emerge. Yet even as the tribes prepared, a whisper surged through the land. For on the edges of Moabite territory, a new king was rising, Eglon's younger brother, a vengeful man named Morad, who sought to avenge his kin and reclaim what had been lost. The darkness gathered around him, and he called forth a legion of warriors, fierce in heart and iron in resolve. Let us descend upon those who dared lift their swords against us, Morad roared, rallying his men. He was a man driven not only by revenge, but by the ancient enmity born of generations. We shall make them tremble, and they will rue the day they thought they could rise against the mighty Moab. The thunder of feet and the clatter of armor echoed in the air as Morad prepared for war. Meanwhile, in the quiet of the Israelite camp, Ehud would often pause, his heart heavy with foresight, leading him into solitary prayer. O Lord, what will be the next chapter in this story? Strengthen our hands for the trials that are bound to follow. Is there not a way to turn the heart of our foe? As night cloaked the land once more, the Israelites gathered around their fires, sharing stories of valor and faith, and yet a palpable tension hung among them. It gripped their hearts as whispers of fate began to weave through their ranks. The Lord had granted victory, but what would this new storm bring? In the stillness, the divine whisper returned, echoing softly, hints of an unending purpose unfolding in the heavenly realm. For I shall raise up judges to deliver my people, and through the darkness shall the light of my sovereign plan be revealed. Thus the Israelites, emboldened yet apprehensive, found themselves at the precipice of a new battle, their eyes firmly fixed upon a destiny that awaited them, fraught with struggle, yet intertwined with hope. What sovereign designs lay hidden within God's purpose, waiting even now to be unveiled? The stars twinkled like promises in the night, each one a reminder of the divine narrative still being written. As dawn broke once more over the horizon, a crimson light spilled forth. It painted the skies and beckoned the day of reckoning. In the Israelite camp, anxiety mingled with resolve as the watchmen stood vigilant upon the hills, their eyes scanning the distance for any sign of the vengeful Moabite king. Yet beneath the quiet clamor of preparation, a stillness lingered, awaiting for divine intervention. Ehud gathered his warriors once again, their countenances etched with determination. Brave souls of Israel, he called, his voice steady and inspired. Today, we stand upon holy ground. The Lord has fortified our hearts, and it is through faith and courage that we shall confront the evil that seeks to consume us. Then one among them, an elder named Benaiah, raised a voice trembling with age but strong with conviction. What plans does our God hold, Ehud? Shall we engage the enemy in battle? Prepare yourselves, for the battle belongs to the Lord, Ehud proclaimed, knowing within his heart the winds of fate were shaping a divine path. But let us not rush headlong into this fray without seeking wisdom. We shall wait upon the Lord, and he shall direct our steps." The warriors steeled themselves, though uncertainty gripped their hearts. They gathered around the sacred fire, where incense rose like prayer to the heavens, each man seeking divine guidance. Night after night, Ehud knelt in humble supplication, burdened with the knowledge of Morad's impending wrath. He felt the weight of Israel on his shoulders, the present and the generations yet to come. Meanwhile, on the brink of Moab's territory, Morad sharpened his edges against the flames of ambition, devising strategies to invade and annihilate those who had dared to challenge his authority. He sat upon his throne, draped in shadows, thick with malice. "Let it be known that no Israelite shall walk unscathed upon this land," he declared, calling forth his advisers. "By whatever means necessary, we shall strike with the force of wrath." As the days stretched into agony for the Israelites, Ehud locked eyes with Enan. "God has given us time, but time is swiftly slipping away. Our approach must be deliberate." The young man nodded, his youthful fervor burning. "What must we do, leader? Shall we not take the fight to them? Shall we not dare to infiltrate their ranks?" Ehud contemplated the young warrior's suggestion and felt a stirring in his spirit. A plan must be woven. We shall use stealth as our ally, slipping into darkness to catch our foe unaware. We will not face them in open battle, but instead subtly, like shadows, until the moment to strike presents itself. And so it was that the Israelites, cloaked in dark garments, began their descent into Moabite territory, under the cover of night, the tension of heavenly purpose echoing in their minds. As they crept closer to the heart of Morad's encampment, their hearts quickened with the impending storm of conflict. Before dawn could break, Ehud ventured forth, leading his selected few into the chamber where Morad lay, unknowing of the eyes upon him. "Now is the hour of reckoning," the judge whispered, spirit aglow with holy resolve. In that moment, a silent prayer rose to heaven, as the Israelites held their breath, the weight of destiny upon them. They had stepped into the shadow, yet in the heart of darkness, they bore the light of divine promise. What would be the outcome of the confrontation yet to come? As the dawn crested the horizon and the first rays pierced the veil of night, God's hand moved, weaving together the threads of his sovereign plan, unseen and yet predestined, a plan that would unravel the destiny of both Israel and Moab. For indeed, the time had come to expose the fearsome ruler and fulfill God's promise of deliverance. Would the light of victory emerge from the shadows of dread? And it came to pass that the dawn broke over the land, the golden light cascading over the valleys, illuminating the hearts of the faithful gathered in the Israelite camp. Though the shadow of Morad's vengeful intent loomed near, a resolve fortified by the Spirit of the Lord swept through the warriors. With the anticipation of divine providence resting upon them, they recalled the promises of old, those sacred assurances spoken to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which whispered of vindication and hope. Ehud, with keen insight gleaned from prayer, convened his warriors once more. "Brothers and sons of Israel," he called, his voice ringing with the authority bestowed upon him by God. "Today we do not fight merely for our lives, but for the very soul of our people, and in defense of our covenant with the Almighty. Stand firm in faith and be prepared, for even now as we go forth, God has already gone before us." The men surged with energy, renewed by the courage that flows only from the heart of the Lord. "We shall take our battle not as mere men, but as instruments fashioned by the hands of our Creator. We will not approach Morad with brute force, but with cunning, for we know the Lord grants wisdom to those who seek it earnestly." And so it was that as the sun rose higher, revealing the Moabite camp undisturbed in its hubris, Ehud whispered fervently to his assembled men, "We shall split our forces, a division of spirit, moving stealthily through their ranks as shadows. For our God is a God of whispers, of silent strength, and upon him we shall rely for our deliverance." The Israelites moved like the silent winds, unseen yet unwavering, emboldened by faith and guided by the hand of providence. As they crept into enemy territory, they could sense the weight of the moment. Each breath held the potential for triumph or surrender, depending on their faithfulness to God's purpose. At the heart of Morad's encampment, a feast of mockery went underway, a strange banquet celebrating a false sense of victory. When we conquer these Israelites once more, Moab boomed to his gathered men, we shall cement our reign. They are like grass before the relentless storm. We shall crush them utterly. Yet unbeknownst to him, the storm had gathered not around Moab, but within the hearts of Ehud and his warriors, as they prepared to deliver the striking blow. The hour of reckoning draws nigh, Ehud murmured softly to his men. Remember the words spoken to Joshua. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Then when the sun reached its zenith, casting the longest shadows upon the ground, Ehud and his warriors burst forth, surging like the tide against the embankments of the Moabites. For the Lord and for our freedom, they cried, a mighty roar that shook the very foundation of Moab's camp with righteous fervor. Caught off guard, the Moabites stumbled in confusion as they faced the resurgence of their oppressors. Israel no longer faltering, but moving with divine assurance. The clash of swords and the echo of cries filled the air, rising to meet the heavens, while the ground beneath became sanctified beneath their faith-fueled combat. Ehud, amidst the fray, pressed toward the heart of the chaos, seeking out Moab, that spirit of violence that sought to drown them. I shall deliver justice, he proclaimed, eyes glimmering with divine purpose as he approached the throne where Moab cowered. In a flash, Ehud drew forth his blade, a gleaming instrument of divine reckoning, silencing the cacophony around him. You sought to instill fear. Now behold the hand of judgment. With a righteous strike, he dealt the final blow to Moab, whose cries echoed with disbelief. As Moab fell, a hush swept through the battlefield. The tide of divine favor had shifted. The hearts of the Moabite soldiers quaked with terror. Fearful shadows of their own making grew upon them, and they scattered like leaves before the tempest, knowing defeat had come. In the aftermath of the battle, the land filled with joy, not mere jubilation over victory, but a homecoming to their covenant with the Lord. They sang praises, declaring, "The Lord is our strength. He has shown mercy upon us once again." As the dust settled, all of Israel gathered to give thanks, not solely for the deliverance from foes, but for the divine revelation nested within their struggles. They understood now that in every confrontation, the depth of their faith was being tested, and they were called not merely to battle, but to remember the greater journey of returning to the heart of Yahweh. Thus they erected an altar upon the ground where Moab once demanded tribute, a monument of stones inscribed with the tales of courage, fearlessness, and divine sovereignty. For the Lord is faithful, they proclaimed as the flames of the sacrifice ascended to the heavens, and his mercy endures forever. In days to come, as stories passed through generations, Ehud's legacy would be one not just of victory over Moab, but an embodiment of faithful return, a reminder that in every struggle faced, the hearts of God's people were to fervently seek him, for in that pursuit lay their true deliverance. And so God's promises continued to unfurl, a tapestry woven with each act of faith, each step taken in humility, and every song sung in worship. The Israelites stood on the threshold of a renewed covenant, fully embracing their calling to reflect the glory of the one who redeems, and with hearts aligned to his purpose, they ventured forth into the promise of a fruitful future. Now, beloved, if this powerful testimony has inspired your faith today, do not wait even one more second to be part of our journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to ensure you don't miss the next uplifting biblical stories. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through this divine narrative, and share your reflections with us in the comments. How did this story resonate with you? It's time to ignite the fire of faith and share this transformative message with at least 5 friends who need to hear the truth of God's faithfulness. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Together, let us lift our voices and our hearts to the one who delivers.